Camp Nowhere. We're here.
The following video contains spoilers. We suggest watching the episodes alone in the dark. This is it, Wolfpack. The final nightmare. Not that one. We're talking about the grand finale, the sole two-parter epic, the last episode from the underrated R.L. Stine family horror saga, The Nightmare Room. Your favorite internet kitty, Catastrophe, originally started out reviewing this horror show near the end of our Haunting Hour reviews. Since I saw this series as some dark good fun to have within a show also often overlooked like Stine's Hub series once was. We've had a good run as we gazed upon this show's sweet highs and its sad lows. But now, it's time to end this. Camp Nowhere is the Nightmare Room's ultimate series finale. The show was meant to go on longer than 13 episodes, but tragically, some obstacles such as the slow, agonizing death of Saturday morning kid shows, the great exodus of kid programs to seek out major networks, and even the 9/11 attacks played a huge part in getting this series abruptly cancelled. As pointed out in most of our comment sections, there were more R.L. Stine books that the show was supposed to adapt, and some new ideas that were possibly recycled onto the Haunting Hour. But alas, the Nightmare Room couldn't stick around anymore. However, many of this show's fans claimed that at least they were one of the few horror anthologies who got a rare good series finale. Quite a few horror classics we love sadly never won great final episodes to conclude on. The series finale of The Haunting Hour sucked, the finale of Tales from the Dark Side sucked, the original finale of the 90s Are You Afraid of the Dark sucked, and even the finale of Old School Twilight Zone was one of the worst episodes of the franchise. Luckily, the Nightmare Room fanbase considers Camp Nowhere to be a great final wave goodbye. But it has been a while since I watched it myself, so I want to witness it again to see if those rumors are true. I'm sure nobody cares it took us this long to get to it.
I'm dying!
Camp Nowhere is the only two-part episode of the saga, since apparently its story was so great that the showrunners needed to divide it into separate parts to cram in everything from the book. To be fair, this Nightmare Room tale is quite faithful to the source material. There are some changes, but the plot, heroes, and events are relatively the exact same. So don't expect too many book comparisons. Now, I could also go into a loving spiel over how great the Nightmare Room was, but truthfully, I do have another vid planned for that. So this'll only be a review on the finale itself rather than the entire show. But yes, R.L. Stine's The Nightmare Room was a fun series. It wasn't the best, especially next to The Haunting Hour and Goosebumps, but it was an exciting in-between show featuring some delightful horror stories and creative imagination. But did the finale really grant this show justice? Is this story arc really a fantastic end to an underrated nightmare? Is Camp Nowhere one of the best badges of honor this gem ever achieved? Or is it all an overhyped disgrace, which should fade away into the Shadow Realm? Well, grab your hiking gear, because we're about to climb up to the top and catch that scenery. This is our wacky review on the Nightmare Room's untimely series finale, Camp Nowhere. So, our episode opens up at summer camp. Camp. where we meet our main character, a shy, cowardly dude named Russell, played by Pete Ross from Smallville. Yep, that's actually Sam Jones III, acting in an R.L. Stine show before becoming besties with Superman. Some DC fans theorize that this is where Pete Ross and Chloe Sullivan were before moving to Smallville and befriending Clark Kent. It's not crazy! And yes, I will be calling him Pete Ross throughout the video because I am so mature. Before becoming Smallville's best football pro, Pete Ross was an awkward chap who was easily scared of everything, to the point where the other kids mock him for it.
A snake, man. Right over your shoulder.
No way.
No, I am serious, Russell.
Forget it. I'm not looking.
Wow, that jump scare would have been scary if we didn't see the kid and puppet clearly behind him.
Don't!
This kid's more of a cowardly wuss than scaredy cat. Hey! Bah! Someone left a can in the recycling bin! Ah! The child acting in this episode is surprisingly good. Not all the characters are as memorable as other kid heroes, but I can safely say that there's mostly decent acting here boosting the finale. And in typical Stine fashion, we have a fun haunted summer camp, haunted forest, and a whole group of zany kid campers who will of course get into wacky haunted hijinks. The camp holds a midnight society meeting where they inform the senior campers that they must pass a sacred ritual where they have to camp for a week out in the haunted Lovecraft's woods. In the haunted cabin, on the haunted hill, under a haunted moon, just like all the big kids do. Haunted! This is where we meet our key players. Aside from wimpy Pete Ross, we have our generic idiot bully. He's there to make fun of Russell for being scared of everything, but naturally comes around to respecting him and all that vomit-inducing sunshine. We have the other girl. Yeah, this chick is so pointless and bland that I didn't even bother remembering her name. She's just the other girl. She has zero purpose, and this episode would be totally unchanged if you cut her out entirely. She's just lucky that she doesn't blink out of existence. Aw, man! We have Pete Ross's best friend, Allison Mack. Oh. Oh no! Well, I guess we have to get this out of the way now. It's time we meet convicted sex offender and human trafficker Allison Mack. Allison Mack was once famous for starring on Smallville alongside Sam Jones III as his friend-zoning love interest Chloe Sullivan. However, Mack has recently been involved with a lot of sick, gross activities, which effectively shattered her rep. If you somehow don't know this, Mack was involved in a deranged sex cult, where she abused little girls, manipulated unsuspecting women who required serious help, tricked people into handing over blackmail material on them so she can control them, tortured indentured slaves, branded a painful cult insignia on abuse victims, enslaved lost girls in a sex ring, and pimped them out to pedophiles and creepy degenerates.
What the fuck?
At the time of filming this video, Mack is currently on trial and awaiting sentencing for her sick, twisted monster transformation, and the courts are trying to understand if she was knowingly a criminal or if she herself was a victim of the cult Nixum's brainwashing too. But personally, I truly believe it doesn't matter, since whether she was aware of her actions or not, Mack does need to to face some serious prison time for all the lives she ruined. No excuses. If you don't believe me, I can give you the links so you can have the same depressing learning experience I had to have and see why Mack is now an infamous name to everyone for her horrible, horrible atrocities.
I may have lost my sight, but things are becoming much clearer now.
As much as I'd like to feature an abundance of wacky Smallville gags like having Big Yellow as Lord Darkseid or something stupid, I don't wanna now, since I'm far too pissed at Allison's gross actions. All I will say is... Allison Mack. Her up her... ing... with a... filled with acid. You are a... monster. You... I hope you die in... prison, you freak. You. And triple... your lesbo ex-girlfriend Nikki for knowing you were a criminal, but kept her mouth shut in exchange for a... green card. You are... garbage. So, for the sake of all the lives ruined by this real-world horror monster, I will not refer to her by name or Chloe Sullivan or the like. From now on, I shall dub thee Whore. Because believe me, that's the nicest thing I can call her. It's just another grim Hollywood downfall tale that kinda makes rewatching this once-beloved star so uncomfortable today. But I will say that knowing what we know now about Whore doesn't completely soil this show's good fun. I just think it's important to let you know, especially the naive, not to get too attached to this bitch.
You're the cranky old gay sex guy from my basement!
Whore is basically Pete Ross's best friend, who supports him on the sidelines. Just like in Smallville! Though maybe she has something going on with other girl. No other girl, don't trust her, she wants to hurt you!
You're the cranky old gay sex guy from my basement!
In short, Pete Ross is the only real character in this, while idiot bully, Whore, and other girl are just there to exchange banter with him. There was actually a fifth kid in the book named Marty, but he was cut out completely. Honestly, I don't think it's a big deal to get worked up over, since we already have enough kids who don't have much persona, so other girl doesn't need the competition. These four must survive the haunted camping trip in order to win their merit badges, or promotion, or whatever.
And spend one night in the haunted cabin, taking with them this feeble spirit doll, which we can only hope will protect them and spare their lives.
This doll is totally pointless and does nothing in the whole story. I know it's a nitpick, but this spirit doll pops up a few times only to do absolutely jack squat and never helps anyone. It's about as useful as Other Girl.
Well, that was pointless.
Later that night, some kid who looks way too young to be at a teenage summer camp warns Pete Ross about the ghostly shenanigans that go on in Lovecraft's woods. It was a cool episode. Seriously, why does this 8-year-old attend the same summer camp as a bunch of high schoolers?
The world may never know.
The weird kid tells Pete Ross that once upon a time there was a kid named Scott Murphy who went camping to the haunted cabin, but he never returned. He simply vanished. Fun fact, the name Scott Murphy was actually the name of one of the Nightmare Room writers. This was just a cute Easter egg to make a nice inside joke for the hardcore audience. The Scott Murphy story worries Pete, but we then get an obvious fake out.
anything scary, did I?
No, because as we all know, fear never knocks. The next day, some creepy stuff begins happening to our 4 kid heroes. As they awaken and travel up to the haunted cabin, they receive ominous death threats, weird messages, see tombstones with their names on them. Their water is sabotaged, and even their nature guide disappears. Some of these ominous, creepy moments could be good, but I don't like how part 1 focuses on way too many jump scares. Mostly 'cause they're super weak.
What do you think it was, Russell? A ghost, Dad?
Well, fuck you.
Come on, Nightmare Room writers. Lazy jump scares? You are so better than that. As you can see, the gang makes it to their Evil Dead cabin, but even that isn't all scary. Heck, the frickin' haunted cabin from Welcome to Camp Nightmare was far more unsettling than this. There's just a bunch of cobwebs and bugs around without any spiders. The cabin is just not a creepy setting, since it looks far too nice to visit, especially compared to this show's darker environments. But I will admit, this episode does have a very eerie atmosphere. It's far from scary, but you do feel that something strange is occurring here, and our main characters feel like they are in a mysterious land far removed from the usual dark forests we get. I do legit like this, since it feels almost like a child-friendly version of Evil Dead. What with 4 naive campers staying in a haunted cabin in a dangerous woodland and all that. It's one of this episode's greatest strengths. After their guidance counselor vanishes, the kids are soon alone and now have to survive on their own in an unfamiliar world. It's a rather terrifying fear most children would be afraid of. Powerful uneasiness. Though it gets kind of funny where the group nearly ditches their black guy to die because they heard a scary noise. Dang it, I knew whore would betray you, Pete.
You're the cranky old gay sex guy from my basement.
Thankfully, he survives, but afraid they'll ditch the black guy to die again, he forces them to spend the night here for safety, where we do get some sweet moments. I love how Pete Ross and Whore try to comfort each other, since it does show you that Smallville chemistry they had.
Remus is probably back at the bunk right now, tearing open your bag of potato chips.
Yeah. I could totally see him leaving that stick in that shirt there for us to find.
God, ghost camp. I must have been delirious.
No, don't trust her, Pete. She wants to hurt you.
You're the cranky old gay sex guy from my basement.
But as they slumber, they soon hear some scary music. What made the red man red? What made the red man red? Then the idiot bully is almost sucked into a bad CGI vortex. What?
I'm being sucked into a hole! Help! Come on,
I got it!
Wow, are those effects something else? This looks awful. How did we go from the epic awesome ants to this? They finally bolt after the 60th ghost text, but rather conveniently, they stumble upon some paint cans, exposing the entire episode's scares as a prank by the camp counselors. Yep, everything we just saw was all a big fake out, and nada in this episode mattered. Are you serial writers? I can buy the fake tombstones and the guy pretending he was attacked, but you expect me to believe that they rigged everything? How the heck did the Scoutmaster chip that ghost threat into solid concrete without waking everybody? And how the hell did they pull off that CGI vortex, which really did drag the idiot bully sleeping bag into a void?
The world may never know.
Yeah, this episode pulls a seance on us by rendering a good chunk of it totally meaningless. But don't fret, we're approaching the good part soon enough. The kids actually prank them back by faking their own disappearance and trick the Scoutmasters into believing they died, since that won't backfire, but it is pretty wicked. Now I'm starting to like these kids. Except for Whore.
You're the cranky old gay sex guy from my basement!
Then the magic happens.
So in return for us keeping the big secret, we get whatever we want.
But I guess they did the magic high five because they somehow traveled to a Silent Hill version of their campgrounds. Oh, don't you always hate it when that happens? Why can't we ever high five each other without dark magic ruining the moment?
High five! All right!
Won't lie, this part of the episode is confusing. The kids have entered a ghost world, but it's not well explained how they got here, and even rewatching it knowing the twists, it still doesn't make sense. I legit love some other stuff in this episode, but it's a rather cheap way to get us to the real plot approaching. I sincerely believe this show could have pulled off a mirror world effect or something cool. They pass by the Star Wars field where Anakin and Padme banged, only to discover a completely different camp, which they never saw before. But before they can ask questions, they get jumped by the scariest thing to ever haunt this universe. Angry children! But oh no, the dastardly kids surround them with their odd blurry effects, ending part 1.
What the heck is that?
I admire the showrunners for trying to make this scary, but these effects really don't hold a candle to even the 2000s Twilight Zone. How did we go from My Name is Evil and Four Eyes to this? Part 2 opens up by completely robbing us of all fear from Part 1's ending, by revealing that the heroes are not really in trouble. This was all just a big misunderstanding. The weird kids who circled them aren't bad guys, they're really good guys who get their Scoutmaster to help out. Wow, thanks for another pointless fake-out, writers. Why the heck did the kids chase them down and chant ghosts anyway?
I don't get it.
Ghosts? That's our word for spies. From the other camp, sometimes they come check on us. See what we're up to.
Oh, right. I recall calling my camp's rival team ghosts instead of spies back in my Kitten days. It earned me a free trip to the loony bin.
I don't get it.
They meet the Scoutmaster, Uncle Brian, a rare useful adult who offers to aid the kids in their hour of need. He offers them sanctuary here in the sister camp, where they will totes protect them until they can contact their real camp to come rescue them.
Right.
Hey, I know this is nitpicky, but why do Stine's camp counselors insist on folks calling them Uncle Blank or Aunt Blank? First Uncle Al, now Uncle Brian? I don't remember that term being a thing in summer camp ever. I guess Stine has fond Boy Scout memories. So the kids explore the neighboring camp, where guess who shows up?
Oh my god, there's Malcolm in Middle! What the fuck?
That's right, Wolfpack. The Nightmare Room not only got the Smallville stars to show up, but they seriously got Malcolm in the Middle to appear on this silly horror series. Oh boy, what does he do?
Joey Davola. Who's this guy play for?
Lakers?
Really? Never heard of him. I'm a Bulls fan. I was there when MJ hit his final shot to win a title.
MJ?
Jordan.
Jordan who?
Come on, man, Michael Jordan. Never heard of Michael Jordan?
No, I like the popular guys. You know, Jerry West, Elgin Baylor, Wilt.
But those guys, they haven't played since... Who's the president of the United States right now?
Lyndon Johnson?
Right.
What do you say?
Lame.
Yep, that was all 30 seconds of Malcolm in the Middle. Hope you enjoyed it, 'cause he never shows up ever again. All Malcolm does is give away the big twist. This is a ghost camp, and the kids are all spirits who died a long time ago. Aside from giving away the plot twist, all Malcolm does is cameo. He's gone now. Consonant, I'm so sick and tired of the Nightmare Room getting all these big guest stars, then doing nothing with them. Why, showrunners, why? You waste Freddy Krueger, Tippi Hedren, and now Malcolm in the Middle. I guess they can't all be Sting Borden cool. Though, to be fair, most of the extras in this are actually kids of the Nightmare Room's show staff. Seriously, I got some comments on YouTube and Twitter stating that most of the ghost kids here are really children from the show's behind-the-scenes team. That's pretty rad. I guess the kids can enjoy bragging how not only did they guest star on a cool R.L. Stine horror saga, but they also got to meet Malcolm in the Middle. How's that for a sweet resume? Back in the plot, Pete Ross tries telling his pals the truth that there's something wrong with this camp, but they don't believe him.
Booga booga booga! Well, if he's not going to do anything...
Ordinarily, this would be the part where I cry over this overdose cliche, but much to my shock, they get past it super quickly. They meet an ominous kid named Drew, a shifty camper who warns them how he knows the truth, that they're all in grave danger. He attempts to tell the girls that this camp is not what it seems, but we get that stupid cliche where before he explains everything, he's cut off by creepiness.
And the truth is that we're... Get back to camp immediately.
Well, nothing left to do but finish this sentence uninterrupted.
Enough with the jump scares, Nightmare Room. They aren't scary. But there is some stuff I do appreciate here. The ominous campground here is actually quite unnerving. You get the impression that there's some big secrets going on here. The summer camp seems way too happy, the kids outright believe they're in a different time period, and all the campers sinisterly keep watch over our heroes. Don't ever trust folks in slow-mo, kiddies. I guess what I truly love the best about Camp Nowhere is actually the eerie atmosphere. Being a kid alone in this type of world would probably make me, even adult me, paranoid and fearful. So there are some scary parts just in the world we're watching. We even get a creepy scene of Pete Ross trying to find Uncle Brian for an update on their rescue, only to find that the phone doesn't work, and more strangeness from their ghostly hosts.
He's dead. Congratulations.
Oh!
You were right.
Hey, hi. Came to see what's taking Ramos so long, and then I figured I'd call the camp myself, but the phone was dead.
I know. The phone's been down all day.
As much as I love this episode's atmosphere, another issue I have is that it almost borrows a little too much from Goosebumps' Welcome to Camp Nightmare. Like, some of these scenes are downright identical. The outcast kid who grows a spine, the sketchy camp counselors, the gaslighting adults, the dark secrets under the alleged fun campground, the haunted cabin deep in the woods, the kids getting ominous threats, and heck, even the kid disappearances which get vague acknowledgments, all feel like they were from the fan-favorite Stine classic. This scene where Uncle Bry confronts Pete Ross is also exactly like the scene where Uncle Al confronted the main hero at his own fake phone office. Like, geez, Stine, did you run out of good ideas already? The fact that this arc repeats a ton of beats from Goosebumps kind of cheapens the episode for me, since the other nightmares at least felt unique. Both even expose the headmaster's villainy in the end.
Keep an eye on him.
What a surprise! The camp, which outright implied they were ghosts, are really sketchy ghosts!
Really?
We do get another creepy scene where Ross hears voices crying for aid, but the counselors interfere. It's almost scary, but nowhere near the killer doll stalking a boy or a ghost teacher strolling the empty school hallway scary. Pete Ross gathers the others to help him search the barn, which weirdly has no animals in it, where after more lame jump scares, they find that Drew kid who tells them the truth.
Listen to me, okay? Uncle Brian is never going to let you leave. We are all prisoners.
Prisoners?
Prisoners.
Prisoners?
Prisoners.
Prisoners?
Prisoners.
Prisoners?
Prisoners.
Prisoners?
He states that he's a living human kid like them, but Uncle Brian and the ghosts are holding them all hostage, and they never want them to ever leave. The ghosts want them to be trapped here in summer camp. Camp. If they stay here, then they'll be trapped at summer camp for all eternity and never see home again. Quick question. Why wasn't this kid Scott Murphy? You know, the kid who supposedly disappeared a long time ago from that other kid's story? I actually thought this guy was Scott Murphy, but stuck here in the bizarre time loop netherrealm. Sort of like the Jimmy Jeffries twist from Catching Cold. But guess what? This kid is completely unrelated to that backstory established earlier. He's a totally different character. Why? Why set up that Scott Murphy backstory about a kid who disappeared, only to have it go nowhere? Lol. Then introduce a totally new kid character who has the exact same background, but is different. It could have been tied together in an ultra-clever way, but the Nightmare Room staff kind of fumble it up by flushing away a perfectly good backstory and bring in this new guy with the same stats for no reason.
Well, that was pointless.
It just felt like a waste. Pete Ross saves Drew, but before they can escape, they're instantly recaptured by Uncle Bry and his army of grouchy, cross-armed kids. Hey, Allison, they probably just want some pointers.
You're the cranky old gay sex guy from my basement!
But Uncle Brian reveals that he's actually a good guy.
So it's true? We really are prisoners?
Not just you. We're all prisoners.
Prisoners.
Prisoners?
And here's where we get to the best part of the episode. The ghosts unlocking their tragic bio and finally telling us what's going on here. Uncle Brian informs them on the real story. They were once a normal camp back in the 1960s, who unwittingly built their camp atop an ancient Indian burial ground.
An ancient Indian what?
This angered the spirits of the dead natives, to the point where they threatened to kill them all and eclipse the forest in the Shadow Realm. But Uncle Brian begged them to spare the lives of his innocent kids and co-workers, since they didn't know, so the spirits made a deal with them. The ghosts wouldn't obliterate them, but now they would be absorbed into their land as well. Once in a few moons, their ghost camp would reappear, where they could pretend to still be alive again and enjoy their lost mortal realm once more. But once the spirits slept, they would hibernate with them. This reveals a dark concept that these people were already dead, but the natives simply chose to not send them into hell. Instead, they had them and their lost souls join their perception of heaven with the nature spirits rather than force them to suffer a more painful afterlife. However, the native spirits keep this place a secret, so no fools would ever repeat the cycle and soil their land again, so they hid this all away with their magic. They are ghosts who live in the land among the nature gods, now as worshippers side by side. Nobody remembers this camp, hence the title, Camp Nowhere.
Oh, that's why they call it that.
Sadly, some kids like Pete Ross and friends accidentally get absorbed into the magic land too if they intrude during a spirit moon. That's what happened to them and to Drew. But the ghosts have no quarrel with them, so they can leave, but not whenever they want. Only after the High Guardians of the Woods slumber, since then it morphs the undead world back into the normal world once the spirit moon passes. It's gotta be on the correct time and not before, Pa. You are in no danger as long as you don't try to leave during the spirit moon, or as long as you don't harm the sacred land. The Camp Nowhere ghosts are actually good guys who have been holding them here so they don't F up and mess with the hex casted upon the woods. Wow, that's actually a pretty deep and creative ghost story. I dare say it's the most intricate ghost origin since Killer Doll Buddy. It's so amazing. But why didn't they just explain things to the kids earlier?
The world may never know.
Yeah, it's kind of dumb they didn't at least try to lead in with that, especially since Drew believes they're evil and after him, but the plot demanded it. To be fair, I do enjoy this ghostly setting so very much. The best part of this story really is the setting and atmosphere, because it feels so haunting. They finally broke away from other R.L. Stine horror camp tales. Good work. But when all simmers down, Drew snaps, breaks out, and F's up by threatening the land with an axe. Almost as if not telling the truth was a dumb idea.
Dumb! Drew, please don't cut into the tree. This is hard on everyone. But you know what will happen.
I don't care, okay? I don't care! I never wanted to go to this stupid camp in the first place! My parents forced me!
Come on, Drew, keep it together. We can figure this out, okay, Drew?
No! No! I'm through with this place!
Huh, you know, that's actually kind of depressing. Drew is like a shadow archetype of Pete Ross in a way. They both didn't like going to summer camp and are both afraid of everything happening to them, but one had his pals to fall back on while the other just snapped and went down the dark side. It almost makes you feel sorry for Drew. Too bad the ghosts don't care, since Drew pisses off the spirits by wrecking a tree while nobody except for Pete Ross stops him. Thanks, guys. And Drew frickin' dies.
Back to the cabin, everyone!
Holy cow, that's a pretty harsh death for a kid who didn't want to be trapped camping. The world of R.L. Stine. Learn your lesson or die. The world begins falling apart. Camp Nowhere vanishes, forcing the crew to rush all the way back to their Evil Dead cabin to dodge the wrath of the Titans. But uh-oh, they lost Ross again.
Stop doing the early credit joke! I hate everything you do!
No, instead we take another weird turn. Just when Pete Ross looks done for, out of freaking nowhere, the nature spirits save and spare Pete Ross because he tried to save their land.
You tried to protect our land. Now we will save you and your friends.
Yes, seriously, the main character tried to save a tree so the nature ghosts spare him and his merry band of idiots. Everyone lives.
Just this once! Everybody lives!
Now, I do like how the hero who was afraid of the world and never liked camping earned respect from nature spirits themselves after learning to appreciate the land around him, but this ending feels so rushed and so abrupt that it seems a bit anticlimactic. He's saved by the ghosts who didn't really matter until the final act. Though, I guess Pete could depend on them more than that dick Superman.
Hey pal, this is our story. Yeah, get your own video.
It's your call.
Douche!
And that's it. We end the tale with our heroes returning home to the real world much wiser than before. The Scoutmasters are glad they're okay. The idiot bully finally respects our hero. The spirit world is safe. And Pete Ross finally becomes a man, where he passes on that useless spirit doll to a new generation. Oh yeah, that stupid doll did exist, didn't it? And in spite of my many hang-ups, I do love the final episode gaining a happy ending. It's still rushed, but it's also optimistic, as Pete Ross tells that kid from earlier how there's nothing to be afraid of when you overcome your nightmares without hesitation. A rather touching lesson from the Room of Nightmares.
Was it really scary?
Truth?
Yeah, truth.
It's nothing. Piece of cake.
I knew it.
Every camp has its stories, told in the dark of night around a roaring fire. Stories that bring a shiver to the hottest summer night. Stories that can't possibly be true unless the campfire burns in. The Nightmare Room.
And that was the final Nightmare Room misadventure, Camp Nowhere. I thought it was alright. Sorry folks, but I didn't fall in love with this one. However, I do think it makes for a unique campfire tale. Camp Nowhere is not what I'd consider a story arc which demanded multiple parts. Honestly, I think Fear Games and Four Eyes could have benefited more from a two-parter than this. Part 1 is a long fake-out story, where the real narrative doesn't truly begin until the end. Part 2 is the actual interesting story, where the episode truly gets fun. It does the don't forget me premise a whole lot better, with a world where the scariest fear is getting absorbed by a higher power, and your existence is at risk of being forgotten. There is a sense of dread always present throughout this episode, but the scary parts are all waiting until the major twists. Part 1's problem is that it's kind of boring, while Part 2 offers us the funner side up until it has to rush through everything. I know it's a kid's series and all, but I thought the ending was a tad too fast. We don't even know that Native American ghosts are involved until they save Pete Ross. Sure, the campers of nowhere say that they caused the conflict, but we don't ever see them until the end.
You didn't tell me it was built on an Indian burial ground! He says he mentioned it 5 or 6 times.
Fortunately, I believe what saves this story is Sam Jones III and his story. Pete Ross's friends are all nobodies. They're all just there to banter with the protagonist and don't really do anything. The main character has a genuinely fun journey where he grows up from being this soft, scaredy cat who's looked down upon by everyone into a brave man who tries leading his group, reasoning with sketchy people, and standing up for what's right. Drew was also interesting in his own right. While he's there to drop clues and turn into an enemy to the good guys, he's like Russell in many ways. Both guys hated coming to summer camp and are easily terrified of all the terrors. However, our main man learns how to appreciate the land and comes to respect its people, so he doesn't end up like the nowhere campers did, while Drew tragically breaks down and unleashes his rage on the land rather than learning his lesson, earning himself a brutal demise. It's honestly a rather fitting moral for a camping story, since it teaches kids the importance of respecting nature and listening to the adults who do know better. In that horrific R.L. Stine way, of course, but still well done. So, in short, I do agree that this is one of the better Nightmare Room trips. But it's not perfect, even with Part 2 salvaging this episode. Part 1 is so boring, yet while Part 2 introduces us to cool horror concepts, it rushes through everything, drops major plot points as if they were nada, and it wraps up so quickly. I like the ending for its optimistic passing the torch to a new generation gimmick, but there's not too much time to breathe it all in like Tangled Web or Scareful What You Wish For's endings. I guess what I'm saying is that I thought it could have taken some time with Pete's arc coming full circle. The effects are not that grand, the pacing has issues, and it's not all that scary. But it does have a lovable main character, some disturbing fridge horror, some of the most eerie atmosphere of the series, decent acting, impressive creativity, and serves as a nice way to teach kids that sometimes it's not always scary when venturing through the unknown. So, I grant the beloved Camp Nowhere a gold skull. It was a tough call, but I can agree that it makes for a passable finale. It's far from my favorite episode, and probably not the best of the show, but Camp Nowhere has achieved enough honor to be the one who gracefully closed the door on this nightmare. But seriously, Allison Mack.
fans call me Pinky, with a die. I'm just soaking in that epic cat vid with my pet Gummy. Remember him, my pet gator, who I sometimes talk to? Ooh-wee, come and get it, Alligatorade. Ooh-wee, oh boy. We sure had sweet fun here on the Nightmare Room while it lasted. But all good things come to an end. Wouldn't you say, Fenwolf?
You? What do you want with me?
Hoo-wee! Cat's Nightmare Room finale sure was good. What do you think Cat'll do next?
Wait, Cat's here too? Where is...
Hoo-wee! Cat
Pinky,
sure is cool!
Stop,
Hoo-wee!
no, stop.
Hoo-wee!
Get off.